Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel Raw review for the 24th of August 2020. And my gosh, this program is getting worse. Obviously SmackDown the worst of the three WWE brands, at least in my view. But this is why I don't really get excited about WWE on a consistent basis anymore, because SummerSlam, good show. Go check out my review if you haven't already. But as far as consistency is concerned, they don't have it. They can't put together a good week of television consistently. They can put together a good show. They can put together good segments. But as far as across three brands, can they put together a compelling week of television? The answer is no. So let's jump into the review here. Also, like, subscribe, comment if you like what's here, and even if you don't, good with that. So we open the show with a fireworks display to acknowledge the Thunderdome. My question is, okay, there's no people there, right? So part of the experience is you go, you see fireworks, you see lots of cool stuff. You're telling me in a pandemic that they can't take the money that they put into fireworks, if that's 10,000 a week, if that's 50,000 a week, I have no idea what it is. But you're telling me they can't give that to, like, I don't know, a charitable organization for recovery of first responders, or many families are struggling being food insufficient right now. You're telling me that this organization isn't intelligent enough to figure out that there's an opportunity to make charitable contributions rather than set off fireworks? And this is why they're completely out of touch with the world needs. Now, I'm not saying shut down your shows, but I am saying at least have the common courtesy and decency to acknowledge the fireworks don't matter. Like, they really, really don't. But making a difference for people could matter. So, anyway, they do a bunch of hype for things that are coming. They talk about Roman Reigns having opportunities come SmackDown, which I'm not thrilled about him being back, but that is what it is. McIntyre comes out. They air a video package saying he's going over Randy Orton last night. McIntyre says he beat him because he's hungrier and more determined than him. Perhaps also it's because he actually still enjoys the business, where honestly I don't think Randy Orton does. McIntyre, he says he knows there's people that are desperate and wounded, and he knows that people need their next paycheck, and Orton never knew what that's like. Probably true. He says McIntyre says he knew that Orton wouldn't let this go. McIntyre posed on stage, and Orton attacks him from behind, and he sends him into the dasher boards, and then he punts him. Somehow McIntyre gets punted twice but gets up. It is what it is, and not to mention the kicks didn't hit. Not that I want a guy risking a concussion, but maybe retire the move since we're more concussion sensitive. Might be a good idea. He gets back to his feet though. Keith Lee video package. I was so excited for this, and then they dropped the ball. So Sarah Schroeder interviews Nia Jax backstage. She's reinstated because she apologized to Pat Buck. Shayna Baszler shows up. She compares Nia Jax to Haystacks Calhoun. Problem is Nia Jax might be about a third of the weight of Haystacks Calhoun. I don't know what she weighs, but I'm guessing 250 pounds wouldn't be unreasonable, and Haystacks was like 600. Anyway, that math doesn't add up, but my point is, yeah, dumb comparison. So then they go into the first match of the night, and Nia Jax makes her way out as this is beginning. Shayna Baszler defeats Bayley via DQ in about 4.5 minutes. Bayley takes control early, and she is able to do so because Sasha Banks distracts her. Nia Jax runs down and causes the DQ because she's already out there anyway. They brawl, and somehow, after insulting her earlier, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are momentarily on the same side. So not only is this show unintelligent, it's also somewhat schizophrenic because they can't remember what they're doing segment to segment. So they brawl around, and Kevin Owens asks some random stagehand where Aleister Black is. Owens opens the door, starts speaking to Aleister Black, asking if he's going to appear. We don't see Black, but we assume that's who it is. And Black closes the door. So Owens introduces him and says they have a common enemy in Seth Rollins. Black is dressed in all black and has a bandage over his eye. Owens asks what he's doing. So then they show the footage, and Owens speaks about Rollins. Black falls to his knee and starts to sell. Owens calls for help. Black nails him with a back elbow and a spinning kick to the head. Officials run in to check on Owens. So apparently this means that Aleister Black is either A, aligned with Seth Rollins and Bunch, or B, just turns heel for randomly no reason. Again, this show does not make sense. Caruso comes out, and Banks and Bayley said Banks said she's win her championship back tonight. Bayley said they'd take care of Baszler and Jax. Fatal 4-way for the 24/7 championship goes less than a minute and a half. Akira Tozawa defeating Sheldon Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, and R-Truth to win the championship. Truth gets an entrance, everybody else doesn't. And Tozawa wins after a roll-up. And Benjamin beats up Ninjas post-match. So we basically have matches just to fill time now. Is that the deal? Randy Orton kicks off the second hour with a promo. Says he's always done what he wanted. SummerSlam's no different. Says he'd beat McIntyre, but he didn't. And then Orton says he was presented with an opportunity earlier tonight. He took it. And he is upset that he was offered a rematch out of pity. Calls himself the Legend Killer. Keith Lee interrupts. Lee introduced himself, and he presents an opportunity for Orton to bask in his glory. Orton smirks, and then Orton says he's the Legend Killer. Lee says he's limitless. Lee says he'd like to fight Orton, and Orton fires up and says maybe later. Backstage, Charlie Caruso is interviewing Zelina Vega, who's with Angel Garza and the Bachelor girlfriend that I don't understand why she's there. Anyway, Vega reiterates that she's not in a strong position anymore. Garza tries to act like getting caught is no big deal. Vega told him to shut up. Leaves to get ready for her match later. Garcia invites girlfriend to join him at ringside. And this is what it is. Orton and Lee made official for later. Again, I'm still excited about this. Oh, how sad I'm going to be. Montez Ford with Dawkins defeats Angel Garza with Andrade and girlfriend in just under 3.25 minutes. Street Profits cut a promo. They shout out Kobe Bryant, and then they do the red Solo cuffs dropping from the ceiling. Ivar comes out to ringside 2 minutes into the match and gives the girl a turkey leg. This inspires her to leave, so somehow protein is Ivar's secret to getting women. Dawkins is amused by this. Ford battles Garza, fights him off the turnbuckles, hits a frog splash for the win. Jax told Baszler she wasn't thrilled about teaming with her, but she wanted the tag titles. Baszler said she'd help win them if she left her alone. I guess that doesn't really make sense, because if you're champions, aren't you supposed to, I don't know, coexist with each other? Anyway, Jax says she should follow her and follow her lead. Baszler slaps her. Jax rolls her eyes, and this just is horrible. Then we go to a 6-woman tag match with Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, and Liv Morgan defeating Zelina Vega and the Iconics in 3.5 minutes. Riott and Morgan billed as the Riott Squad, so we're going back in time. Vega hits a glam slam and a handspring moonsault. Iconics break up the cover. I don't even know why the Iconics are still employed. Anyway, Belair nails Vega with a right hand before the KOD for the pinfall win. This was just there to fill time. Literally, if I didn't have 30 plus years as a fan, I would turn this show off after about 2 segments, because the segments don't link together. They don't have any intermeaning. There's no reason for me to stay tuned. Anyway, Cedric Alexander beats Ricochet in an arm wrestling contest in the back. Mark Henry shows up and asked for an arm wrestling apparatus. Alexander is asked if he wants to challenge him first. He declines. MVP shows up and wonders why Alexander was doing just minutes after losing a chance at the 24 championship. Ricochet told MVP to leave. MVP is not interested in hearing from a guy who abandoned Alexander previously, and makes a case for him to join the Hurt Business eventually. The heel turn's coming, I just don't know when, and at least it would give Alexander something consistent to do. Then an arm wrestling match between Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley. What a way to use the U.S. champion. Mark Henry introduces everybody and asks the Hurt Business, Mustafa Ali, Alexander, and Ricochet to stay in the back. Lashley says he doesn't need anybody because he can beat anybody, and he says he's going to beat him at Payback for the championship. Oh yeah, by the way, there's another network special in 6 days, and we're hyping it here. Anyway, Crews said he'd beat Lashley at Payback just like he did MVP. Crews says he would also win the arm wrestling contest. These arm wrestling contests never end well. So they get in position. Lashley begs off. And then he taunts Henry. Crews stomps on Lashley's foot, gets a cheap win, and Crews is declared the winner. Lashley tries to attack Crews, and that doesn't go anywhere. We recap Dominic and Rollins. Caruso interviews the Mysterio family. Ray and Angie were happy for their son. Ray calls Rollins one of the most dangerous superstars. Dominic gives him a heck of a match, and the amount of courage this takes. Rollins doesn't understand about family. He said Rollins would have a family one day. Well, that's kind of how pregnancy works. Anyway, and Ray goes on for a while informing Rollins that Dominic was the real future of Raw. Well, that's if Raw continues to exist in 5 years. Anyway, so we go to another pointless segment, this time with Lana and Natalya. They are in the ring to honor future Hall of Famer. Lana puts Natalya over as Hall of Fame ready, puts her over as the best of all time, or the boat. They're here tonight to honor Mickie James and retire her. Natalya points out in a video package she put together for James' career highlights, and this is a blank image. Haha. We go into the third hour of Raw. We do the underground thing. Lashley beats up some random guy, chokes him out. Dolph Ziggler gets in the ring to face Lashley, and the announcers note that he had a fight scheduled against Ivar later in the evening. Ziggler held his own for a while until Lashley launches him out of the ring into a wall. Hurt Business through some other random dude in the ring. Lashley hits him with a weak-looking kick, and this somehow knocks him out. We finally get Keith Lee's Raw debut. Yay! It sucks. Boo! And he defeats Randy Orton by disqualification in just under 5 minutes. He has new music that makes him look weaker. He wrestles in a sleeveless shirt. He shows some agility early, shoulder tackles Orton, and Lee catches Orton with a punch and gives him an overhead suplex. Without moving, Orton gains control and then applies a chinlock. Lee powers out. Lee uses a body block and knocked Orton out of the ring. And then he makes a mistake by trying to get over into the middle rope. Orton hits the draping DDT. Orton sets up the RKO. McIntyre yanks him out of the ring for the DQ. McIntyre chased after Orton, who manages to escape. Lee's disappointed by this. I would be too if I wait all this time to get on Raw and this is my debut. Again, not saying that Keith Lee should have defeated Randy Orton by pinfall or submission or something like that. However, number one, Orton versus Lee is a potential dream match. You could have built that for a month and had it be something on a network special. You could have done a lot. You could have built it for a whole show and had it be NXT Standout versus the Legend Killer. Like, you could have done a million things with it. They gave it less than 2 hours to build. They did not hype it sufficiently, and they made it really not matter. Then, you also got to figure, Keith Lee, most of the Raw audience, which is, 1.3 to 1.5 million people, doesn't watch NXT. Over half of them don't watch NXT. So they have no idea who Keith Lee is, right? Or they might know who he is cursory. They might have heard of him. They might have seen video packages. But a good number of them, let's say, even I'll be conservative and say a third of them don't know who he is. So why doesn't he beat up like a squash guy for like 3 or 4 weeks, then you give him a competitive match? No, we can't do that because that would make sense. Anyway, they plug Roman Reigns' return. McIntyre tells Caruso that he's happy for his friend, but didn't need Keith Lee fighting his battles. So now the champion's kind of burying Keith Lee. He's angry at Orton, tries to put an end to his career, and Orton attacks him again. He gets punted again. Million officials and other individuals run out. Then Charlie Caruso is outside the trainer's room post-break, overhearing that he could have a skull fracture and bleeding on the brain. Supposedly she'll have an update later. So he takes a bunch of these kicks and manages to get up. Now he's got a potential skull fracture, which would be like life-threatening, not just career-threatening. And what's the difference in what happened here? Like, why? Anyway, so we move to the Lumberjack match. Asuka defeating Sasha Banks with Bayley to retain the Women's Championship. Longest match of the show so far, just under 8 minutes. Everybody, a bunch of women surround the ring. Nia Jax isn't there. Banks falls out of the ring. Babyfaces throw her back in. Shayna Baszler steps in front, stares Bayley down, and Banks is in control after a commercial break. Banks tries to dive. Asuka ducks, and she takes out the Riot Squad instead. Asuka knocks her down and went after Bayley behind the other women. Asuka goes after a few of them. Banks attacks from behind. Banks used a frog splash for a near fall. Bayley grabs a chair. Baszler takes her out in the process. And Asuka puts Banks in the Asuka locks for the submission. Oh boy. Ambulance carries McIntyre away. We're all scared. And somehow he's called one of the toughest men that we've ever seen. He can't say the same for Orton. We go back to the Raw Underground set, which rumor has it this is, a big deal. Anyway, and supposedly the Raw Underground thing might be ending anyway. Dominic and Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins and Murphy. They go to a no contest in just over 10 minutes. Dominic and Rey enter first. They could have built this up like father and son, first time ever. Again, give that even a week's build. Let people want to see that. There's an emotional moment there that they just threw away and wasted. Anyway, so heels get the better of things for a bit, and then they go on the attack. Match starts with Murphy and Dominic, and they're in the ring. They're fighting around. Dominic dumps Murphy from the ring. Rollins bails from the ring. Dominic takes him out. Murphy with a dive off the top. Commercials happen. Rollins makes a blind tag. Rey gets a backbreaker. Rollins hit Rey with a gut buster. After the break, Rey takes control, hits Rollins with a bulldog. Rey gives Murphy and Zaguri and makes the hot tag to Dominic, giving Murphy clothesline, springboard crossbody for near fall. Dominic used leg scissors takedowns, tilt-a-whirls, DDT. Rollins breaks all that up. Rey goes for 619 on Rollins. Murphy makes the blind tag. Nobody sees it. Rey drops Murphy over the middle rope. Tag to Dominic. Father and son do the, tandem 619. Lights go out. Dominic sets up frog splash, which caused hesitation. And Retribution shows up in the ring. Rollins bails out. Rey tries to protect Dominic. Retribution beats everybody up. And Retribution lays out the Mysterios. Rollins and Murphy were shown watching this from the stage. Raw goes off the air. Again, we don't know why Retribution's here. Again, we don't know what their mission is. Again, we just see them again and again and again. And that's fine if you go, we're learning a little bit. We're here to take the championships. We're here because WWE sucks. We're here from another company. We're here to eat plums. I don't care why we're here, but at this point, we've got to know why we're here. And if we don't, it's completely pointless. Anyway, that closes Raw. One of the worst Raws in a bit. Anyhow, I'll be back with AEW Dark. I'll be back with Impact, which in comparison was the better show of the three. And I'll also be back finishing off 1982 World Class. So tons more content. Till then, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.